Okay, it's 2:15, time for our session. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session on how to get EU funding for your deep tech startup. The starting point is simple. For the right company, the European Innovation Council funding can be substantial. The EIC Accelerator, the instrument that we're talking about today, can provide funding for up to 2.5 million euros, as well as an equity component of a substantial amount, and especially with the step up until 30 million is available. But the key word is for the right company and in the right timing frame. So what we're going to do today is instead, it's not talking about a general good startups. The question isn't whether your startup is good, it's whether it's a fit for this instrument. And before you put in all the effort into proposal writing and to all the effort that leads up to receiving funding, it's important to know, is it a fit? Are you the right company? And more importantly, is it the right timing for your company to apply for this kind of funding? So today, we want to focus on who this really is for and why would a startup decide to invest the time and effort to apply. And by the end of the session, hopefully, you can ascertain for yourself whether you're a likely fit, what kind of commitment the process takes, and what you can expect from it. So let me start with a quick question. From the knowledge that you have now, how many of you think your company at this stage is a fit for the EIC Accelerator? Oh, great. I hope we have some more hands by the end of the session. It's also thought for venture capitalist investors as well, just to see, all coaches. I mean, there might be some coaches over here today as well, just wanting to know at what stage do I send a company for this. So I know it's not all, we're not all companies and startups that are here today. So let me introduce you to the three perspectives that we have today. I'm pleased to be joined by the three panelists who covered this topic from different perspectives. We have Tommaso Portaluri, who joins us from Verity, a company, a Zurich-based robotics scale-up working with autonomous indoor drones for inventory management and warehouse automation. And Tommaso brings the perspective of a company that's secured this type of funding. So he's going to answer some questions in a moment. Then we have Diego Braguglia, who brings the venture capital perspective to us today. As managing partner at VI Partners, he looks at companies from an investor point of view, including co-financing approaches involving the European Investment Bank and the EIC Fund. And then we have Rita De Brito, who brings a hands-on experience in supporting many of our Swiss-based startups in the process of proposal writing, pitch trainings. She'll go into a little bit more detail over there. And she sees on a daily basis what works, what fails, who's the right fit, and what questions are to be asked. So between the three of them, we cover selection logic, founder experience, and then the investment perspective. So let's start with you, Rita.
Yes.
I'd like to start with you because many companies here, this is, 2.5 million euros and equity, huge amounts of equity. Who wouldn't find that attractive? But they come to you, and when they are thinking of applying, and what are the first questions you ask to understand whether they are actually a fit, or where are the misalignments that you see with these companies?
So maybe I will start with that. I often see companies of approaching and getting this appealing of the money, which is of course all startups are looking for money, but seeing the EIC Accelerator as the simple grant, and it's not. In practice, the Accelerator is a strategic instrument for deep tech breakthrough technologies, and keep these jargons but words in mind because they are relevant. Moving from validation to scale up, market and scale up. So the typical misalignments I see from these companies are, first one, assuming that your innovation is deep tech when the scientific or technological foundation is not strong enough. So the EIC particularly targets this deep tech technology. So basically that come from a strong scientific, engineer, technological foundation. Second, confusing incremental innovation with breakthrough innovation. So the EIC is not selecting just something that can be faster or better. So it has to have a clear breakthrough that is enough for the Commission to invest and to give you public money. So these technologies have to be significantly new, have to be difficult to replicate, it's an important point, and strong enough to disrupt or create new markets. So the third is to applying too early. You see companies that come and their maturation, the technological maturation, it's not ready. So the acceleration is for innovations that are validated in a relevant environment. And the fourth one, I would say companies that are very strong technological and can really explain well the technology, but then they don't have a clear plan to scale up. And the program is exactly that, a strategic program to scale up. So the misalignment comes from there. And finally, I see many companies already at a very late stage, even after the proposal submission, that don't have a clear understanding what are the funding requirements. So as you mentioned at the beginning, companies can apply for both grant and equity. And for the grant part, the first thing is that you will have to contribute with 30% of these activities. Some companies don't have the financial means to that, so how can you apply for something that you don't have this contribution? And second is the part of the equity part, that the EIC seeks co-investment, meaning that the investment should be at least matched by other investors, so 50-50. So these, I would say, that are the 5 typical misalignments that I see from companies.
And if you had to mention this 2 to 3 hard go, no-go criteria you look for in this conversation that you have, this meeting that you have, what would they be?
So I would say the first one is the company eligibility. We are talking about SME, so the Commission defined quite clear what they consider an SME. You will hear from Tommaso that this was a self-assessment that they did when they submitted their proposal. So you have to clear this, and by SME, I mean spin-off, spin-out startups, so also small mid-caps can apply. And also something that we see from companies that are very much used to European funding and come with this consortium mentality. This is not a program for a consortium. You apply as a single company. So this would be the first criteria, go, no go. So the second one would be the deep tech and breakthrough, what I mentioned at the beginning. If you don't have this if you can't say, okay, what I'm developing is truly deep tech, and what we aim is really to break through a disruptive innovation, then this is also not a fit for you. And then at the right maturity level, as I mentioned also early, so companies need to be between TRL 6 and 8, and this means that at least the innovation has been validated in a relevant environment. So if one of these is missing, for me, then it would be my advice as a national contact point for the EIC is to see, okay, this for me is as a no-go. But, or at least not yet. So especially for the maturity level, it's something, then often I say, okay, come to us. We were discussing just earlier, come to us in a few months because maybe we'll be there. So these are, I would say, the 3 hard criteria, go, no-go decision when you start considering to apply for the accelerator.
Okay, thank you. Beyond the hard go, no-go, there's always a little bit of a fuzzy area. What tells you that a company is really ready for the EIC Accelerator?
So a part of having a strong innovation, and this is, it's funny, we see, I think Switzerland it's a rich ecosystem in terms of companies with great innovation. So we are lucky enough to have companies that come to us fulfilling this. So beyond that, the technology itself, what I do expect is to see companies having a credible a scale-up strategy, a strong team. So no project, no company will be good enough if you don't have a strong team. And by strong team, I also mean acquiring the competences that at the moment you don't have, but you need to have. If you go to business, if you scale up, you need to have marketing. So all the things that are ahead of you. A clear IP position, so it is something that we also see often quite weak. A realistic go-to-market plan, investment readiness, and the final question is a convincing answer on why does this matter for Europe. And I think if a company comes with a strong innovation and all these points that I just mentioned, I'm not only convinced that the company is eligible, but will be a strong candidate for the EIC Accelerator.
Thank you. So if I understand this correctly, this is not about being a good startup or have a good product. It's more about the deep tech, as you've mentioned, the breakthrough potential, a credible path to scale. And then there was one thing that you hear it, you always hear it, and it's not always clear, is the high risk part about it. What does that mean?
So it means that it's high risk because you are a deep tech and breakthrough, but because of what you are developing is so difficult, it's difficult to reach private funding, for instance, and then this is the right case. But if you make it through, so the breakthrough, it's the high gain. So this is it. And before we move on, because I don't we want also to hear from my colleagues. So what I just mentioned refers to the accelerator, but that is also the STEP Scale Up. And the STEP Scale Up is a new program that the Commission launched last year. It follows the same deep tech logic, but focusing specifically in strategic technologies, meaning digital, clean tech, and biotech. If for more mature SMEs, meaning that SMEs that need larger equity investment scale. So the STEP can provide you up to 30 million, 10 to 30 million, with aim of helping companies to raise larger funding rounds between 50 and 150. So that's why we say more mature companies. But the idea is to help you scale in Europe. And
great.
I'll leave it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Tommaso. You heard Rita describe the kind of company that is eligible and is a fit for the EIC Accelerator. Your company obviously fits in this perfect niche. And so at what point and what made you realize this is the right time for your company to apply for this? And what was the strategic reason to apply for this, the EIC Accelerator?
So we found ourselves asking, so are we the right company? And on the deep tech side was fairly easy answer. We're an ETH spin-off. We do autonomous indoor drones. We have a patent portfolio of 200 patents. So that was the easy part. The more difficult part for us was more, are we at the right stage right now? Because by the time we applied, we already had paying clients. Our system was in hundreds of warehouses. And so the moment when we decided there could be a fit is that we identified in our technological roadmap a leap. So it was something that was big enough that could change our platform in a radical way, but also too risky for our investors. And so for us, the strategic part was that the main focus of our investors, since we have a relatively successful product, is that we had to scale this product, but we would lose our technological advantage in the market. And so what the accelerator is really enabling us to do from a strategic point of view is to keep this technological advancement and to keep making our platform better in a fast way.
Okay, and could you mention something specifically that you wanted to do with this funding?
Yeah. So what our system currently does is that our drones are installed in warehouses, and at night they go around the warehouse and they automate inventory. They scan the barcodes. And what we want to do with this project is that as these drones fly, we will teach them to detect safety issues in the rack. So if the rack is bent, if there's a pin missing, and all these kind of safety issues, which is extremely difficult if you want to do this on a 1 kilogram drone. So if you have very complex machine vision model in this to run in this, and as they fly 2 meters per second to detect a 1 millimeter damage. So clearly this was a game changing in this field. And this is what we're trying to teach to our drones. The project just started this month, and we're excited to do that.
Because often you say this the proposal writing process is such a tedious, a long, an intense process. But what would you say the proposal process forced you to clarify within your company in terms of technology, market, or a business case?
So I think the main value is that the proposal forces you to articulate what sometimes is an implicit, or maybe is disseminated, there's a knowledge dissemination in different departments. And so when you try to bring them together, you can really make sense out of it. And I have to say that being able to rely also on the feedback of Euresearch in the during the writing process was very helpful to come up with a big picture. At the same time, you really benchmark your technology against other deep tech in Europe. Sometimes in Switzerland it's a happy ecosystem, and I think it's important that you challenge yourself and you go to a panel. We actually have to go there a couple of times before getting our funding, and it really helps to get your story straight. And what was interesting for me is to see that some of our investor material was used for the grant, but also some of the grant material ended up being used for investor material in the end. And so that was a very benefic process. So I would argue that whether you should be careful to start this process if you're not a good fit, still there is a benefit of it, also if you don't get the money. Of course, it's much better if you get it, but...
Yes, I know Euresearch does challenge a person. Yes, I know. I've heard it from clients as well, saying that you get challenged by the Euresearch people in uncomfortable questions that you think you can put in the back and just ignore them and jump over them. We make you face them head on, as Tomas has just explained. What was harder than you expected in the process?
So two aspects. I think firstly, internally, I think there is sometimes this pressure to start writing before you actually think all the elements. And I think really to write this proposal, you really need to get inputs from finance, from HR. You have to assess the gender dimension and how you contribute to that. From marketing, customer success. So it's really multiple components. And this time where you have competing internal deadlines, commercial pipeline, and it's really difficult sometimes to really align and collect all the pieces. So I think you really need internally a strong leadership sponsor to be able to get all this together, because it takes a lot of time from multiple people. And second, I think we probably underestimated the interview. So the training for the interview is something that really requires some very specific work, because we're a company that has been quite successful in raising investor money. And so we're like, okay, we know how to do these things. We'll just go there and, it's VCs, we can handle this. And instead, it's really something very specific with a very specific schedule. And so it really requires to take it seriously. And
okay, that's very interesting. Okay, so what I take from this is it's not opportunistic funding. Just nice to get quick and easy along the road. It takes strategic commitment, timing, and preparation. So if you take it seriously, you can get something out of it, something even more. Even if you're not successful, there are a lot of payoffs along the way as well. Now let us bring in the investment perspective. Diego, at the beginning, I mentioned that this is not only about grant funding. So the equity part is very relevant, and the investment dimension. And for lots of companies, hearing that there's equity available, the whole equity process is sometimes daunting. And how does it work? And is it very different from the normal VC process? From a VC perspective, when you see an EIC-backed company, what does this signal to you? And what does it not signal to you?
Well, I think maybe starting to answer from a slightly different angle.
Yeah.
I think it's money, and there is no low-hanging fruit. And money has always a cost, whether it's private or is public. Now, as I said before, I think Rita and Tommaso described very well the process. It's a long process. I won't classify it as a tedious process, but I think it's good to have first that process run with very compliant and patient VC. Because you can pitch your investment thesis to the VC and having, let's say, your house not yet in order. So you can come to us and then you and on the other side, we are looking as a VC. We are looking more on the technical, let's say on the material aspect of the investment. So the due diligence we do is just really on the product, on the device, on the molecule, on the indications, which is not the case with the EIB and EIC, where the due diligence is more on the side of getting the house in order. So everything has to be really picobello. You cannot afford to go there and we just say, by the way, we will fix that, we will fix that. No, this is just a classical no-go. I think on the source of money, whether it's good or is not good, I think it's, I think now I'm speaking also N equal 1, it's my opinion. I think it's just it's a significant source of money, which I think is public money, which I think there are some connotation with the public money, which goes with the process, which goes with some strings attached, which might be very heavy for the company if I'm not known known in advance. And I think the main strings attached to that money is just that the EIB, EIC, they retain the right on the equity part just to sell back that equity part to the company for €1 if things are not going well. So this might be very dangerous, especially as you can just bump up your balance sheet as a company. And this is something which needs to be known. I think it's, from the other side, is also the notion that, yes, is money available, but need with a match. You cannot go to say, we are looking now for X million if you are not coming with a match in front. And now this ratio, so we have experienced it go from 1 to 3 to 1 to 4. So there's just some flexibility in that. Okay. But I would say is just looking now in retrospective. And so we have done the exercise with 3 companies, raised in excess of 80 millions cumulated in this company. It was a good exercise because it forced you really to go through a very structured approach. Of course, it's an approach is long. It takes between 9 and 12 months at best, or at shortest. You can grab that first part, which is the grant part, which is not connected to equity, which is coming fairly quickly. It's not a huge amount, but I think a couple of millions is also it's always good money.
Yeah.
And really it opens you to the equity part. And I think the good thing of that, I think especially for more sites as a VC, which also we are an early stage investor, so we are not approaching a company like the private equity are doing, like banking are doing, which is the approach of a European investment bank, and which is a bank of the council. So and this they are very well, it's just as a kind of a sanity check of the company is the right in order. There is another thing which I think it's important to see. You know, with VC, you can negotiate everything. You can apply the Chinese way to business, that you start to negotiate when agreements are signed. So, for example, you have a milestone and you don't reach that milestone, you can say, okay, let's make a negotiate, and you're still paying that amount of money, although you have not reached the milestone. This is not possible with that. I think it's just because the system is different. And you may negotiate a lot of terms ahead of time, but those were fixed. When they are fixed, the negotiation then completely lapsed. But I would say it was so far a good exercise. Of course, as you summarized it, Rita, very well. I think things has to be there, has to be in order, very well described. It's not the EIC coming to say you might have a problem on that IP.
Yeah.
We are not checking it. So IP has to be there. This is our role. Also our role, also our task as a VC, more deeply involved in the technological, on the operational aspect of the investment. But I would say, back to your first question, is yes, that experience has been a good experience. We haven't got yet success in those companies. We are still ongoing. But one part which I think it's important, one of the last investment we are about to close with EIC is money which will support commercial activity. And this is not easy to get among the private markets steered by VC.
Yeah, that was basically my next question in terms of, from a VC perspective, what makes it attractive for you to be part of this process?
I think the attractiveness is just very simply said, it's just the amount of money. And so when you have a partner who can chip in between 20, 30, 40 million of euro, is a significant amount. It's also a way which allows you to attract other parties, and which, you know, is very often also investors are like sheep, and so it's just a group effect. And if you have just one which is coming, the other might follow, with the caveat that it's matching fund. You have to convince one, and this newcomer is a naive investor. So it's not somebody who is already in the company.
Yeah.
So it's a new round, and then I think on the commercial term, it's just this is market standard.
Yeah.
So it's not, but again, it's market standard. It's not easy accessible money. It's not a low-hanging fruit, but is within the standards that the market will require.
Is there a specific risk or misconception that founders should avoid from your perspective? You've touched on a couple of things.
I think I don't see risks. Okay, I think the main risk, but this is not connected with the money from EIB, EIC. The biggest risk is just, I am really willing to sell my soul to the devil and just open the capital. But this is also when you're deciding to open the capital to other investors. I think the main risk is just an intrinsic risk is not to do your own work completely. And so the rules of the game are very, very clear. They are known in advance. And you have to comply with those. And especially with notion of the potential, if companies are not normally not going well, that equity investment might be sold back to the company for €1. And this might be very, very dangerous. So on the balance sheet might really hurt the company heavily. This is one thing, but you know it in advance.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, from the perspective, are there commonalities that you see in these companies that they have? Are there companies, you've dealt with a couple now, that you can say, yes, that's a common denominator of these, or a characteristic that you've seen in multiple companies, just for us to understand?
I think it goes down a little bit on the entry criteria Rita described before. Also, those companies, at least in the three we had, also two were in therapeutics, one in device tissue regeneration, are not companies which bootstrapped the first round and then they decided to go to look money at the EIB. They're already established. Also, I have to go back now, specific case, but at least up to a Series B, maybe a Series C, significant money raised, and when we decided to go to look for that particular fund of money. I think I won't say it's a definitely it's not the criteria, or it might be a significant risk to start very, very early. But I think if it's too early, then the company does not qualify the entry criteria what Rita just described.
And do you think it's a correct statement if I had to lean out of the window and say, well, if you win an EIC grant, the investors will follow?
Maybe yes, maybe no. I think for the step, whereas this is a kind of a competitive call. This I think we have a company just won the step also recently. This I think is a quality call. Whether this now it will help to have additional investors, it could definitely help. It definitely does not hurt.
So if the company is fundamentally investable, EIC support can strengthen what we've heard, strengthen the financing story of a company in during their journey. I would like to, and I don't know how we're doing on time. You haven't been. Am I still in?
You're perfectly on time.
Good. Okay. Good. I would like to, just before we open up to questions, because we'd like to hear your questions for our panel. But I would also like to, Rita, many companies will still sit here and say, I'm still not, I don't know, I could fit, but it's not clear for me 100%. And they might need to check. So where can Euresearch help companies ascertain whether this is a fit, and ascertain maybe it's not now, but maybe it's in a year, or how can you help them?
So first of all, I will start by normally what I say is at the end. Our services are free of charge because we are mandated by the Swiss State Secretariat for Education, Innovation.
Research and Innovation.
I always say it wrong. So I think this is a plus from our service. So we are a network of offices spread all over Switzerland. You will find company advisors like Lisanne here in Bern. Myself or Roma Müller, we are the national contact points for the specific programs, in this particular case for the EIC Accelerator and for the STEP. And you can always help, you can always come to us directly and say, let's have a chat and let's just go through the things, explain me a little bit, what is this program all about, do you think that is a fit or not? So apart from that, we have also very specific services. We don't write proposals, but we will give you feedback if we have resources. So we do proposal reviews and advice. And if you are invited to go to Brussels, we organize pitch trainings. We just organized last week the round of interviews. We just finished. So this is something that we do, and we hear that often companies find it quite useful. So if you are asking, at the beginning was this hand, so there was only one company. If you'll be a fit for the EIC Accelerator, come to us, and you can address us via the accelerator at euresearch.ch. And if it's not the case, then we also advise, Euresearch also advise to other European funding instruments, so you can always put you in contact. Maybe not, Lisanne has a view of the whole portfolio, but for more specific dossiers, we can also put you in contact with other colleagues.
Yeah, the Horizon Europe programs are vast, and there are different options. So perhaps you come for the EIC Accelerator and we say, well, not at the moment, but there are other instruments that could be interesting for you. And we also very well, in the different regions, we are well informed about the national opportunities as well, so that we can put you and connect you to the right people. So should we go to your questions? Or shall I first ask you, who thinks they have a client or their company could be eligible for the EIC Accelerator now or in the next 24 months? Are there any more hands? Oh, I like this. Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, okay. So let's open the floor to some questions. Has anyone got a question in terms of yes?
Are you guys open to other regions, or is it just strictly Switzerland, Europe?
So we support Swiss companies. Yes, but the type of office that we are, organization, exists also in other countries. So all countries, European countries that are part of the program, do have these figures, which are the national contact points. You can always go to them and ask specific questions. If you wish, I can put you in contact with a specific colleague of a country, so I can look for it.
Any other questions? Yes.
What would be your upfront advice for non-EU funders? Non-EU funders, company incorporated in Switzerland.
But if you are a Swiss company, there is no problem. Doesn't matter. Yes, absolutely. You just need to be a member state or associated country company, which is Switzerland now is associated country, so no problem. Yes.
And as Rita has mentioned, my role is a company advisor for the region of Bern, but we have 10 regions across Switzerland. So there's a person like me that gives the same, that gives the same service in each of the regions. And these offices are based at either a University of Applied Sciences or at a university. So the ETH has one, ZHW, FHNW, and St. Gallen in each of, in Ticino, in all of those regions. So, but as you can contact also the Euresearch office in Bern, and they'll connect you. Yes, your question.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the time horizon of
Yeah.
The equity investment. So how long is it normally, and do you take a board seat and also afterwards the exit? Is that something you're part of the decision, or is it the company and the other investors which decide and you just go along? And
Diego?
I think it's so the process is long. So take, I would say, a good 9 to 12 months at least. I think don't apply or don't account for that kind of money if you have to raise your money in 6 months from now. So it takes time. Then on the requirements on for the equity investment, also in the past were not coupled to requirements to have observer or to have board members. It happens in the last 2 rounds we did. It was a request to have people in the board not representing the EIB, EIC, but bringing specific competencies to the company. Especially in that last round we are about to close now, is main of the use of proceeds is to set commercial activities, and they requested to have an independent board member with significant commercial expertise. But they are not coming to impose somebody. It's just a request, and then it's just up to the company and to the board to seek the adequate person.
in terms of exits?
Yeah.
Well, exit is a matter of how you're structuring your shareholders agreement and decision-making process. And this is just in the negotiation, you have to be aware. So there are some clauses which are particular to the EIB, which might prevent, for example, is changing the seat of a company. But those clauses also, we take a lot of attention that we cannot accept that change of a seat of a company, for example, from the Europe to the US, in case the company is acquired by an American player. Also, those clauses are not or are relapsed in case of a change of control. So this, I think, is one clause. There are some others, but they are, I would say, softer, and we try them to link them to, in case of change of control, those are relapsed.
Oh, you've got yes.
I have 2 questions. One is related to the EU-relevant topics, because there is across all the pillars of EU funding, and I come to this more from a horizon type of funding, but I think it doesn't really probably matter. There is a big emphasis on sovereignty, and we see this. So how does this feature into EU relevant when we talk about startups? And the second one is, although we focus on not the consortia building type of calls, I'm nevertheless curious in what kind of consortia setups do you often see, maybe in some stage startups being involved, and in which stage they are normally?
So the EIC covers, and I start maybe at the end. The EIC has many different programs, and there the pathfinder and transition there you can apply as a consortium. Of course, the maturity level is slower, and there we see quite everything. There in the specific cases, it's okay. I think it's good to have the industry, so the startup experience, but it's more about the particular expertise that the startup brings. They will not evaluate you as a startup since how long are you founded or something like that. It's more the expertise, which is not the case of course, the accelerator. And they're going back because Diego mentioned, I think, an important point, the maturity of the company. And we see often that majority of proposals that are being funded are from companies that are around Series A. So that is already pre-seed is really quite very minimal numbers. I would say maybe a couple, if maximum. And then it's really boosting. So in terms of this, for the other programs, I would say it's important the expertise that they bring. It's not so much about how mature is the company, because the company will not push the innovation just alone. It will be a consortium. Then the first question about the impact. Of course, we go back to the point that this is public money. So at the end of the day, Europe, and that's why also the program has challenges. So they select specific topics where you will apply. So there is, and the EIC, and this is something which is, I do think it's an interest concept. It's a policy investor. So the EIC decides, or the Commission will decide through the EIC to invest in certain things that they believe will push, at the end of the day, our economy, will bring benefits for society and maybe also environment. So all these three things are important and should be kept in mind. I don't know if it was too abstract or I answered, yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Rita. I've got one more question for you, Tommaso.
There was, I think...
Did someone else also put their hand up? No?
I saw, okay.
It's also into your question, and it's about the timeline. How many times did you submit your proposal, and how long did it take? Because I think that's something that's relevant to know.
So I think it took us from the first submission to money in the bank account 14 months, 15 months. So I think 12 to 18 months is a good timeline to have in mind. So we submitted twice. So we went to the interview first time, and then we were not successful. And so we resubmitted. So there are two steps of the remote evaluation. And if you fail, you just get only one step to get the full proposal. And then the last interview in January was successful. Okay, but we first submitted in, I think, January or February of last year, I think January. Yeah.
And you wrote the proposal?
Yeah. I mean, it's team effort, but, you know.
Yes, but you wrote in-house in your company, because we have that often, is that it's given externally and you're not hands-on on the process. So you, for your company, what was the value of writing your proposal, being hands-on? So, I mean, we did get some support. So it was not just me. We had an external support as well. But I think that my company made the decision to have, you know, a person that is strategically working on grants. And I think the bargaining power that you have internally to get all the pieces that you need is, of course, much higher than having an external consultant that comes in and has to compete with all the deadlines. So I think that's the benefit of having somebody leading from inside the company. Okay. Well, one more question. Last one.
What will be your view on using most of this? Do you recommend to use an external consultant? Do you recommend to do it in-house? Are there any specific things you recommend?
Would you like to answer that?
I can.
Yes.
So I think it's really your decision depending on the resources. What we always advise is that if you go with a consultant, have also a second opinion from, for instance, us or a kind of similar organization. Because we see many companies arriving at the interview stage, going through the consultant help and not knowing the basics about EIC. So I think it's up to you. It's a strategic decision. Do I have the resources to pull? Because as you heard, it's quite substantial, the work, and you have to tick all the boxes. If you do it, there are great consultants that can really help you, but it's not harming to have another advice from.
If I can just quickly add on this, because I think nowadays with AI support tool, I think it's fairly easy to write a good proposal, but writing a winning proposal is another story.
Yes.
And I think the thinking process and brainstorming with the Euresearch, with external consultants, ideally with both, I think really helps you thinking about a good narrative for the project. And then you can write it.
Because in the UK or Spanish ecosystems where I work a bit more, it's very difficult to get a proposal through validation unless a consultant basically kind of tells you these are the 3 or 4 things that they are going to be looking at. And of course in here you're lucky that you have your research maybe guiding you a tiny bit. But if not, is that basically one thing is what you said, write something with AI, the other one is it the right thing?
Yes.
If I may just add, so from the last batch that the winning companies, we had, so it's 50-50 the success rate. We had 2 companies going with no consultant, they came to us, and then 2 so it's really up to you. The decision has to be, do I have resources, yes or no? Yeah.
I think there are 2 components in a proposal. The first is the content, which is a matter of a CEO of a company, and the second is the form. And the form, it's important to have somebody who speaks the IBEs or the IBCs, because you have that form to fill, which are written in English, but it's in English which you don't understand. And this is important to have somebody, but I think you are suited to do that. I think really to see what is the content, how you have to fill in this form. And this I think is wise, especially if you do it the first time, to have somebody who help you, assist you. Even the EIB, EIC, they are very, very open to say, I think, pick up the phone and say, I'm sorry, I need help to fill in that form. But this is on the form part, not on the content. The content is companies matter, the house has to be in order, and this you don't need to seek advice. I think if you need to seek advice, then you are not in the position to apply for that.
Okay, I think we're out of time. So the EIC can be a powerful instrument if it's a fit, if the timing's right, and if you've got everything planned out correctly. So your technology, risk profile, market ambition, and financing strategy is genuinely in order. As Diego said, get your house in order, make sure that everything's there before you embark on this journey. So I'd like to thank Rita, Tommaso, and Diego for coming and sharing with you. I hope we all hope it's been a little bit helpful, and that if you need some advice, some support, we're here to help you. And I think
we'll be around.
We'll be around for questions. Thank you.